Hi, and welcome to Back to Our Roots. I'm Haley Judd.
And I'm Jen Elby.
And today we are going to be talking about our last of the 10 commandments, the 8th commandment: you shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. Now, as we look to the catechism and try to explore what this commandment is all about, we see one word come up a lot, and that word is truth. And so Jen is going to talk to us a little bit about this idea of truth.
Right. So the 8th commandment, it's not only in order not to tell a lie, but it's also in order to speak the truth. Mm-hmm. And so as Christians, we're called to live in the truth. But I think we all know in our culture today, in our world, there are a lot of skewed versions of the truth. So as Christians, when we're called to live in the truth, what does this mean? Well, the Old Testament attests that God is the source of all truth. And not only is he the source of all truth, but he is truth itself. That's it. So his word is truth, his law is truth. And when we have that as our definition of truth, the word truth becomes very objective. And we have this firm foundation on which to build our lives. Now in John, in the Gospel of John, chapter 8, verses 31 and 32, Jesus tells the Jews that believed in him, "If you remain in my word, you will truly be my disciples, and you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." So if we're living our truth, like if I'm living Jen Alby's truth and Haley's living Haley Judd's truth and Sarah Jane's behind the camera and she's living Sarah Jane Roth's truth, it's a whole bunch of different versions of the truth. It's skewed truth. Mm-hmm. So because we're human, because we have weaknesses, because we have sin, our versions, all these skewed versions of the truth, are not actual truth. And I realize that is controversial to say today. There is objective truth, and that is Jesus Christ. So when we strive to build our lives rooted in the actual truth, the one who is truth itself, he is without sin, without weakness, there's no messiness inside of him. We've got this great foundation, right? We have this perfect starting point for every aspect of our lives, because I think it's important to remember that our lives are not our own, right? So if we're building truth based on our feelings and our prejudices, like I said, it's not the truth, and then our lives get a little messy. But if we keep Christ as the center of our lives and as that foundation of actual truth, then we've got the perfect foundation for our lives. When we are free in Christ's truth, the Catechism of the Catholic Church, paragraph 2472 says, "We then have the duty to act as witnesses to the gospel. This witness is a transmission of faith in words and deeds." Now this reminds me of at the end of Mass when Father is dismissing us, any father or deacon, they say to go forth and spread the gospel according to your lives. So it's not necessarily that we have to go out there and scream the gospel on the corner. We have to live it. We have to live in the truth and the joy that Jesus Christ is. And so we're constantly given this task to go forth and to spread the truth. And with that, I'm going to give it to Haley.
Thank you, Jen.
Mm-hmm.
So Jen's really rooted us in why truth is important, how we're called to live in the truth. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about what the Catechism calls offenses against truth. If that's the goal, what are ways we don't live up to that goal? What are ways that we break the 8th commandment? And so there's 4 that I really want us to just touch on today. The first is probably the most obvious, which is bearing false witness or perjury. So you're in court and you speak falsely under oath. That is one of the ways that we know that we break this commandment, when you have declared you're going to speak the truth and you do not. But the second way really struck me as interesting, and the Catechism summarized it as respect for the reputation of persons. An offense against truth is not respecting the reputation of persons. And there was a couple ways that we could go about doing this. One is rash judgment, quickly making a false judgment about someone without really knowing them. Another way we could do this would be breaking someone's confidence. Someone tells you something, or you know something about someone, and you share it with, not good intent. Obviously, there might be a situation in which you need to share something to help that person, but without good intent, you share it. Or simply talking poorly of someone, just degrading someone's reputation. These are all ways that we break the eighth commandment. And in the Catechism, I found a call to interpret our neighbor's thoughts, words, and deeds in a favorable way. That was the way the Catechism phrased it. Interpret what others do in a favorable way. And this really struck me because this is something that I talk about sometimes. It's one of my Haley's theories about life. And my theory is that today we've really stopped giving people the benefit of the doubt. I think that's how we would describe it, of interpreting people's actions in a favorable way is giving people the benefit of the doubt. And I think today we often as a society, and I know myself included, jump to the conclusion that people have malicious intent, that they're trying to annoy us, they're trying to get in our way. And I think the easiest example of this is when we're driving. How quickly someone cuts you off, someone does something you don't like, and you assume they're doing it to bother you. And they're like, this person just jumped in front of me and went slow. That person is probably trying to figure out where the heck they're going, right? And they have a turn coming up or something. But I think that so easily today we don't give people the benefit of the doubt, and we don't assume the best of people. But we are called to, according to the Catechism and our faith, that as Catholics we're called to think everybody is trying their best. Everyone is just trying their best. And if there's someone who's behaving in a way that we don't understand, we're called to ask questions and not jump to conclusions. So this is one way that we can try to better live out the eighth commandment. A third way that we offend truth or break the eighth commandment is through boasting. Really interesting, right? Through speaking too highly of ourselves. But the fourth and final way that I really want to focus on is lying. That probably is what comes to mind first and foremost for all of us, the idea of lying. And the Catechism says lying is the most direct offense against the truth because it's speaking something that's not the truth. And it goes on to say, a lie consists in speaking a falsehood with the intent of deceiving. That's the definition of a lie. You're speaking something that's false with the intention of deceiving. And in my view of the world, it seems that we live in a society that readily accepts and encourages lying. While I know that we teach our children, it's not good to lie, and we talk to them about how lies can snowball and get out of control, generally speaking, in adult society, people are okay with lying, and we all fall into habits of lying. I realized that this is very true of myself as well as I was learning more about this. I easily become a part of this lying culture. So here are some little examples that came to mind for me of ways that we just lie and don't really think about it. Your phone rings, you pick it up and you look at it, and it is someone you don't feel like talking to. So you put it away, and then either you see them the next day or maybe you send them a text and you say, I'm sorry, I didn't see your call. Super simple, but a lie. Instead of speaking the truth, which we'll get to in a moment. Another example, you had dinner plans and you just had a really rotten day. And so instead of perhaps communicating that, you say, I'm sick in bed with a headache. That's a lie. And these are these little lies that I think are just a normal part of our society. We all sort of understand that we're all telling them, but we're Catholics and we're called to something higher than that. And so today I just want to challenge you to look at yourself. It's only a question you can answer, and to ask yourself, when I lie, why do I lie? Why is it that I speak these falsehoods? And as I looked at myself and consider those around me, what really stood out to me is I think we lie a lot to avoid difficult, honest conversations. You lied about seeing someone's phone call because maybe you didn't want to say, I was having a bad day and I wasn't in a good place to talk, or I was feeling really overwhelmed with my kids and I just couldn't talk right then. Or we lie about dinner because we don't want to say, my anxiety is acting up and I can't be there tonight. It's just not a good time for me. But we are called to be countercultural, pretty much across the board. That's the call of Catholics. And you know what's countercultural is a culture of honesty and vulnerability. Can you imagine if we, just as Catholics, started just being honest more of the time and being vulnerable more of the time? And we didn't hide behind little white lies, which is what I want my final point to be, right? We even have a phrase, white lies, because as the Catechism outlines, the severity of the sin that is lying goes up and down depending on your intention and all these different factors. But our goal is not to sin a little bit. Our goal is not to sin, right? So it doesn't matter that it's a white lie. I think it's cute. We made an expression for it. It's still not the truth. And our call is to know sin, not little sins. So with that, and that summary of offenses against lying and ways, or offenses against truth and ways we break the 8th commandment, I will pass it back to Jen.
Yes. So, this commandment covers social media, which I was sort of astounded by. I just didn't expect it to cover any of the aspects of social media. But how many of us maybe get on there and lie a little bit? Maybe lie about just how awesome my life is going, or maybe how crappy my life is going. Is your life really that crappy? Or is it really that awesome? Just kidding. But I'm going to go ahead and just read from the Catechism because I feel like my snark is going to overwhelm me if I say anything from my personal viewpoint of social media. So here is objective truth from the Catechism, okay? So, Catechism of the Catholic Church, paragraph 2495 states, "It is necessary that all members of society meet the demands of justice and charity in this domain. They should help through the means of social communication in the formation and diffusion of sound public opinion." Now, how many of us have maybe not been particularly charitable or very, very, very Christ-like on social media? I know I haven't. So, paragraph 2496 goes on and says, "Users should practice moderation and discipline in their approach to the mass media. They will want to form enlightened and correct consciences the more easily to resist unwholesome influences." Unwholesome influences, I mean, that's synonymous with social media at this point. Paragraph 2497, "By the very nature of their profession, journalists have an obligation to serve the truth and not offend against charity in disseminating information. They should strive to respect with equal care the nature of the facts and the limits of critical judgment concerning individuals. They should not stoop to defamation." There's a lot of journalists that are stooping to defamation. And also, I mean, let's question those fact checkers, because I don't think they're really checking a lot of facts. Okay, 2499. "Moral judgment must condemn the plague of totalitarian states which systemically falsify the truth, exercise political control of opinion through the media, manipulate defendants and witnesses at public trials, and imagine that they secure their tyranny by strangling and repressing everything they consider thought crimes." When I read this, like I said, I was astounded that this was in the Catechism, and I think that social media, just that blanket statement of social media, or that blanket name of social media, goes against a lot of this, right? But we as Christians, if we are active in Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, that doesn't give us it doesn't allow us any right to get on there and just say what we want to say. We are to be little Christs, Christians. That's what Christian means, little Christs, even in the social media arena. And I know I had to check myself when I was reading this. So maybe you should consider checking yourself too.
Jen and I were very impressed that, these subjects that are so relatable today are found in the Catechism. So once again, we just really encourage you to get your hands on one. And that way, when you're grappling with problems as a modern Catholic, this book can help you figure out how we're called to live. Thank you for joining us for our last commandment video. There is going to be a conclusion to this year of Back to Our Roots. So stay tuned. This isn't our final video. There will be a conclusion where we sort of cover the 10 Commandments as a whole, as a way of ending this beautiful year. But we really enjoyed diving into each and every one of these commandments with you. And with that, Jen is going to introduce our family.
It's going to be my family. Isn't that fun? So we will see you guys in a little bit. Hey everyone, it's the Albies, Jen Albie,
Andrew Albie,
Cooper Albie,
Jack Albie, Charlie Albie, Harry Albie,
Cooper, Jack, Charlie, Harry, and Andrew. Welcome back to our house, our home. We're talking about the 8th commandment today. Thou shalt not bear false witness against your neighbor. So we'll be chatting about how we teach our children that, and then the boys will give some comments on how they try to live it out as well. So I'm going to hand it over to Andrew. How do we teach our kiddos to be honest?
So thou shalt not lie, basically. It's a huge one. It's one that I come back to at times, in that it's one of the ones that's not a sort of a U.S. law, right? It's legal to lie, assuming we're not in court, but it's one of those ones that's actually legal to do, unlike, murder and steal and that kind of thing. So it's a little bit of a difficult one, except for when I think of it as when you lie, you're violating truth. And simply said, if God is truth, then every time you lie, you are violating God. So when you boys lie, you are going against God.
Yes.
Got it?
Yep.
Yes.
You are not. You are not going
It's
against
a tough
the
one.
devil.
Yeah, right?
It's a tough one. Yeah, that's kind of harsh. Moving on.
Another way you can follow the commandment is also by not judging people as soon as you see the person. Like, not seeing if he has freckles all over his face, not saying, I just met him and I don't like him. Or, yeah.
Yeah, kind of what Jack said, but you shouldn't go behind someone's back and gossip about them and talk about them, and even if you don't know them all that well, don't say bad things about them, because you barely know them, and if you could get to know them, then maybe all those bad things that you said aren't true. Maybe there are a lot of good things that you and the other person have in common, and yeah.
Charlie, what do you think? How do you try to be honest?
Kind of on Halloween, when someone eats a piece of candy and they're not allowed to, and they lie about it.
Oh, all right.
And then
You getting something off your chest now?
and then some and then that person who lied about it gets in trouble. And then then.
Okay. So you
So
feel
don't
better?
don't lie.
Yeah.
Don't steal. Sounds like. So we're hopping to a different commandment. Don't steal, right? Don't steal someone else's candy and then lie about it.
I kind of mean your own candy.
So you were eating candy when you were told not to,
Yeah.
and then you didn't tell anybody about it until
Well, I told my parents.
now, like in real time.
Like just now. You just told us. Did you just confess?
We forgive you.
All right.
All right.
Harry, what about you? What do you think?
So, we act in the image of God, and, when we lie, we sin. And
Go on.
but God just takes that away.
He takes away the sin
Yeah.
if we confess, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's beautiful. Good job. We strive to teach our children the truth of Jesus Christ and the truth of the Bible, and like I said it earlier in the video, we demonstrate that through our word and our deed, and so we try our best in this family to do that, and we often fail, but just like Harry said, God takes that away from us and then sets us on the right path. So anyway, thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time. Yeah, have a good one.
Bye.
Happy Easter!